Lisa. Welcome to Adventures in Knitting. In these videos, I will guide you on your knitting journey to explore your creativity and interpret your stitches. So let's get started on our next adventure. Today I'm going to show you how to make a provisional knit cast-on. This type of cast-on is used when you want live stitches on your needle so that you can later pick them up and work back in the other direction. There are many types of provisional cast-ons. I like the one that uses a crochet hook. So you will need a crochet hook that's about the same size as your knitting needle. You will need your project yarn. In this case I'm working with this bulky purple yarn. And then you'll need some waste yarn, and the waste yarn should be smooth, a contrast color to your project yarn, and it can also be slightly thinner than your project yarn. That will make it easier to remove at the end. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slip knot. And then I like to put a couple of knots in the tail of my slip knot because that will help indicate later which end you're going to pull to unzip the live stitches. Okay, and now I'm going to put that slip knot on my crochet hook. And I'm going to hold the crochet hook in my right hand, my knitting needle in the left hand, and I'm going to move the yarn behind the knitting needle. To do a provisional cast on, there are 3 steps. Step 1, I start with my crochet hook on top of my knitting needle and I reach around and I grab the yarn. Step 2 is I pull the yarn through the slip knot that's on my hook. And step 3 is I take the working yarn and I move it back around behind the knitting needle. So you'll see now that I've created 1 stitch on my knitting needle. So now I'm going to do all 3 steps again. I'm going to grab the waste yarn with my crochet hook. Step 2, I'm going to pull it through the stitch that's on the hook. And step 3, move the yarn back around behind the needle. Okay, and I keep doing all 3 steps until I have the number of stitches I need on my knitting needle. When you have the number of stitches you need, you can take your crochet hook out and then just pull the yarn through that last stitch. Okay, now I'm ready to knit those stitches like I normally would. So now I need my project yarn. And I just go ahead and start knitting these just like I normally would. So when I'm ready to now unzip my waste yarn and pick up my live stitches, I'm going to use another needle slightly smaller than my project needle. And I'm going to turn it around, and you'll notice that the live stitches are being held by the waste yarn. And you'll also notice that these stitches kind of line up in between the stitches on your project knitting needle. So what I want to do is I want to put my needle down into the first stitch here. And pick up just the project yarn. Go down into the next stitch and pick up the next one. And here's stitch number 4, and here. But you'll notice I have 5 stitches on my project needle, so there's 1 more stitch I have to pick up, and it's this very end stitch. So it's right along the edge there. Okay, and so now I have 5 stitches that I've picked up, corresponding with the 5 stitches on my working end. So now I can remove my waste yarn, and as you recall, we had put a knot in the end where we started with the slip knot. We actually want to unzip our stitches from the other end. We want to start here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out this last, I'm going to pull the tail out of the waste yarn. And then I should just be able to pull on the waste yarn, and you'll see it unzips each stitch of our waste yarn one by one. And then when you get to the slip knot end, you just pull it through.